Curtis Harrington's debut feature film, Night Tide, is perhaps best known for featuring an almost unrecognizable Dennis Hopper in his first starring role. Here the 24-year-old actor plays a lovestruck sailor inexplicably drawn to a mysterious sideshow mermaid. Harrington first pitched the story to the late Roger Corman in 1956. Several years later, the father of cult cinema would step in to rescue the project from a defaulted loan by the film's production company, thus ensuring its theatrical release in February 1963, 2 years after the film's initial premiere. Yet, unlike the B-movies churned out by its financial overseer, Night Tide is thick with atmosphere, surreal imagery, and layered themes, making for one of the most memorable examples of early independent cinema. Johnny Drake, played by Hopper, is a fresh young sailor on shore leave when he spots a dark-haired beauty sitting alone at a jazz club along Venice Beach. The somewhat distant Maura, played by Linda Lawson, initially appears uninterested in Johnny, yet she invites him to have breakfast with her the following morning in her apartment above a carousel. We soon learn that Maura makes her living as a sideshow mermaid in an attraction operated by her adoptive father, the queer-coded Captain Murdoch, played by Gavin Muir, who found Maura as an orphan on a Greek island. The supernatural implication is immediately apparent to the audience, but Johnny is unaware of anything amiss. Though from their very first meeting, he notices that Maura is being stalked by a mysterious older woman played by Marjorie Cameron, a real-life occultist and all-round eccentric who had previously starred in Harrington's work. Not only does Cameron's casting reflect the director's desire to imbue his work with the unconventional, but the film's ambiguous ending hinges on her character's repeated appearances.
There's a woman that's been bothering Maura. Now I think she's here. I just want to talk to her, that's all.
Woman? There isn't any woman.
Johnny is first cautioned against Maura by Ellen Sands, granddaughter of the carousel operator with whom Johnny becomes acquainted. Ellen, played by Luana Anders, best known for her role in Francis Ford Coppola's Dementia 13, informs Johnny that Maura's previous 2 boyfriends drowned under suspicious circumstances which are still under investigation. Yet Johnny is undeterred by this alarming news, nor does he believe Captain Murdoch's assertion that Maura is descended from an ancient race of sirens. It is a bold claim, yet the film, minus one highly memorable dream sequence, rejects the gaudy imagery of similar monster-human flicks associated with directors like Corman, instead evoking the subtleties of Val Newton's suggestive masterwork Cat People. Indeed, Harrington would state in interviews that the film was heavily inspired by Newton's work. Still, the plot does not wholly rely on the question of whether Maura is truly a supernatural being. Whilst the film's ambiguous treatment of its central mystery is compelling, Night Tide's broader themes of love, loss, and obsession help to elevate the story and ground its more mystical elements.
Guess we're all a little afraid of what we love.
Whilst best known for playing antagonistic outsider types, Hopper is remarkably compelling as an infatuated all-American boy. This characterization, coupled with Hopper's acutely naturalistic acting, is almost disconcerting, yet equally endearing. His interpretation of a young man in love, perhaps for the first time, is soaked in a charming naivety which underscores the inevitability of the couple's doomed romance. This notion is further reinforced by a glistening beachside setting and the transient nature of both Johnny and Maura's occupations, all of which point toward a short-lived affair. Frequently billed as a fantasy-horror hybrid, Night Tide could also be thought of as an ode to the all-consuming intensity of young love. This is supported by the film's closing lines which appear on screen, an excerpt from the poem Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe, literary master of the macabre, of whom Harrington was a lifelong fan. The poem recalls a young love cut short by tragedy from the perspective of a narrator consumed by grief. And so all the night tide I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea.